Night Trap. Probably one of the most infamous games in history, though not for reasons you may think. Night Trap wasn't known for its innovative gameplay, ahead of its time game design, or great story. No, Night Trap may have been nothing more than a blip in the history of gaming if it wasn't for Congress. That's right, the United States Congress. And why is the game infamous because of the government? Well, because they used it and Mortal Kombat as their poster child for gaming violence, influencing the malleable minds of our youths. These horrible games made our kids want to go out, build elaborate devices, and trap college girls to feed their lust for blood. Right.
Instead of enriching a child's mind, these games teach a child to enjoy inflicting torture. The second game is Night Trap, which is a game set in a sorority house. The object is to keep hooded men from hanging the young woman from a hook or drilling their necks with a tool designed to drain their blood. Night Trap uses actual actors and achieves an unprecedented level of realism. What is particularly troubling about the scene in this film that we have an extract of is a graphic depiction of the violence against women with strong overtones of sexual violence. I find this segment deeply offensive and believe that it simply should be taken off the market.
It has been quite a leap from Pac-Man to Night Trap. About 2 months ago, I saw the video game Night Trap for the first time. It is a sick, disgusting video game in my judgment.
And a woman since the day I was born. And let me tell you, on all my labels and all the hats I wear, I find that so extremely offensive, and the only word you can say to the manufacturers and the shareholders of the company is shame on you.
How's it going, fellow geeks? Gamer Dad 79 here, and welcome to the very first episode of this channel's rebrand. We are no longer known as simply Gamer Dad 79. We are now known as Gamer Dad's mostly Steam Deck reviews. I've been playing the Steam Deck a lot more and more lately, and I thought it would be really cool to mostly dedicate the channel to seeing how different games run on the deck. Now, I'm not a tech guy by any stretch of the imagination, so don't expect me to be going into stuff like CPU usage and GPU and all those other PU acronyms. I'm just not going to be doing that. This is your average Joe's look at how games really run on the Steam Deck. Today we are looking at Night Trap, and the reason that's significant, at least to me, is because originally Gamer Dad 79 launched with a look at Night Trap all those many years ago. And let's be honest, that video has really not aged that well, so that video's coming down, and I thought it would be, kind of really cool and kind of poetic to launch the rebrand with a newer look at Night Trap. Night Trap is a full motion video game, or an FMV game for short, which basically uses real life actors and actresses instead of like computer generated ones. The genre's been around in one form or another for quite a while now, and in recent years it's been making somewhat of a comeback with, games with like higher production values overall. I've always been a fan of the FMV genre, and I love covering these types of games. Okay, now that we got all the niceties out of the way, let's get to the game. Now, before we get started, I just want to say that this isn't going to be a full-on retrospective of Night Trap. There are videos out there that are full documentaries on YouTube and other places that you can watch if you really want to dig into the background of this game. However, you can't talk about Night Trap without at least touching on its history, even just a little bit. So without further ado, let's check out Night Trap on the Steam Deck. Normally, I will be ending these videos with how the games run on the deck, but I figured it would be kind of prudent to start this video with the performance section, but for good reason. For some strange reason, the Night Trap 25th Anniversary Edition, which is the version you should absolutely play if you really want to play Night Trap, does not work on the Steam Deck. Okay, let me clarify that statement for a second. There is a way to get Night Trap to run on the Steam Deck, but it's not something as simple as just changing the Proton version. If you are interested and you really want to get the 25th Anniversary Edition up and running on the Steam Deck, I will link the Proton DB page down below that tells you how to do it, how to get it running, but let's just say it's not exactly average Joe friendly. Does that mean you're SOL on playing Night Trap on the Steam Deck? Not necessarily. There is a magic place in the gaming world where you have access to thousands of classic games for just about every console ever made. That mystical place is called emulation. Of course, Night Trap originally came out on the Sega CD, and while I do have a deep love for that system, this is the worst version of Night Trap you could possibly play. It's very grainy and not pleasing to look at when other, better versions are available. So what's a Night Trap fan to do? I mean, there are more of us, right? Well, there are two other versions of the game that you can play that are just head and shoulders above the Sega CD version. Firstly is the Sega CD 32X version of the game. Now, you may be asking yourself just what in the holy hell is GamerDad79 talking about? Well, if you're not aware, Sega not only had the Sega CD add-on for the Genesis, they also had another add-on that added the ability to play 32-bit games on the 16-bit Genesis. This was called the 32X. Not only did it allow 32-bit games to be played on the Genesis, it also allowed for better versions of some Sega CD games to be played. One of those games was Night Trap. Now, this is definitely an upgrade from the regular Sega CD version, but it's still not the best you can do via emulation. Probably the best version out there is for the 3DO. That's right. The 3DO had a port of Night Trap that looks so much better than anything Sega had available. So if you really want to play Night Trap on your Steam Deck, this is the easiest and best looking way to do it right now. I still don't understand why the 25th anniversary doesn't work on the Steam Deck, but what do I know? Okay, first off, spoilers ahead. Yeah, I know it's Night Trap, but I like to give you the option to avoid spoilers if you want to. You play as a member of SCAT, which apparently stands for Sega Control Attack Team. SCAT was alerted to the disappearance of 5 teenage girls who were last seen at the Martin Winery estate. The Martin family consists of Victor, his wife Sheila, their children Jeff and Sarah, and their cousin Tony. The missing girls were reportedly invited to stay for the night by Sarah. Local police questioned the Martin family, but of course they claimed that the girls left safely and they didn't allow the police to search the property. The police then handed the case over to SCAT, which investigated the house and discovered a series of traps, security cameras, and an operation unit in the basement to control all of it. The SCAT agent spliced an override cable into the control system and connected it to the control panel in the back hallway of the house. You are given the job of controlling the traps and cameras from this back hallway. Now 5 more teenage girls are headed towards the estate, and SCAT has placed undercover agent Kelly within the group. It's up to you to protect them and find out what's going on inside that house. So actually the Night Trap story, on paper anyway, really isn't that bad, but it's the execution that's very cringe, especially the actors. Dana Plato, best known for her time on Different Strokes, plays Kelly, and you can tell that she is the only actress on that set that has any real acting experience. What could have been a pretty entertaining mystery game quickly turns into a cheese fest, but that could be kind of its charm anyway, so yeah. This is as simple as it gets. You control the cameras and the traps. You search throughout the house, going from room to room, waiting for someone to come close to the trap location, watching this meter that increases as they get closer. Once the meter hits a certain point, you hit the trap button, and that's it. The only other gameplay element is that the traps are controlled by an access code, and the traps can only be used if you have the right code. So you have to listen in on some of the conversations that are happening throughout the house to make sure you get the right code. One of my biggest issues with Night Trap is that the gameplay gets in the way of the story, and that's a big no-no in my book. You can't really enjoy the story elements that are unfolding, as cheesy as they may be, because you're constantly going from room to room throughout the house trying to find people that you're supposed to trap. If you decide to watch some of that story, you run the risk of missing people that you need to trap. Miss enough of them and you lose the game. It's an FMV game. It's real life people. What else is there to say? The best I can say is that the effects are pretty cool for a 90s FMV, and they don't rely on really bad computer graphics that look so out of place with the real actors and actresses. So, like I said in the beginning, Night Trap probably would have been nothing more than just a blip in the history of gaming if it wasn't for what happened in Congress. The gameplay is super shallow, and it gets in the way of the semi-entertaining but cheesy story. Not only that, but the definitive version of the game, the 25th anniversary from developer Screaming Villains, doesn't work on the Steam Deck, which is a huge shame. Now, I do have a love for this game because it was my introduction into the FMV genre, but even I can't overlook its many faults. Because of that, I give Night Trap a 5 out of 10, and that's mostly for nostalgia's sake. Alright fellow geeks, that is it for today's video. Let me know if you've ever played Night Trap and what you thought of it. What FMV games do you want to see me check out next? Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, I'm GamerDad79. Keep on geeking on. Hello fellow geeks, GamerDad79 here, and welcome to one of my very first videos in a very long time. Welcome to a brand new segment of videos called Full Motion Video. Now on today's Full Motion Video, we're going to talk about one of the classics of full motion video, Night Trap.